Thank you so much for speaking with me. This documentary, I've been watching Wolfgang as everyone else for so many years, and we feel like we've known you through food, but this was a chance to actually get to know the person. So I was wondering, for after all these years that we've kind of what we thought we knew about you, why was it important to tell this story for both of you?
Well, I really thought it is important because part of my job is inspiring people, inspiring young people, and telling young people, that adversity is there to be overcome. You just have to water the grass so that it gets green. You don't jump to the other side. And I really believe, and David is doing such a great job at telling stories about chefs, about food, the way he invented the genre of making a movie about chefs and so forth is really amazing.
Right.
So when David came to me and says he wants to tell my story, and it's really the first time I talked about my stepfather or the first chef or the hardship I had when I was a kid.
Right. And for David, it's such beautiful moments that you show on screen. And these are moments that are very private. How do you, as a documentarian, navigate that with such sensitivity and also making sure you get the story out?
Well, I think that the first thing is that I want Wolfgang and I build trust together just by having conversations, being very candid about, where we're going to be focusing the story and kind of building trust in that way. I'm very fortunate that, Wolfgang decided to trust us and, he allowed us to kind of probe those areas, not just the successes, but also the very difficult times, like coming from a very, very difficult home when he was very little. I think that it's so important in the story. And the reason is that, you have to understand how, like he said before, the hardships need to be overcome and that the success means so much more when you understand where we're coming from. And so that's it. I think it's about building a trust and building a relationship, and that allows us to go to those difficult places.
Right. Now, for Wolfgang, you're created an empire. You could be credited as starting such things as like Food Network and why we have all these different competition shows. But what was, this long life that you have? What was that moment where you said, I want to do something where I reflect upon everything that I've been through and acknowledge not only my success, but the success of being able to step out of the poverty and the abuse that I've had?
Well, I really think I want people to know that it wasn't always like that, that it wasn't like I was serving Denzel Washington or LeBron James or Tom Cruise. It
Right.
was a time in Austria where it was really difficult, where we had meat once a week, where my stepfather was abusive, both mentally and physically, not only to me, but also to my sister, who was his daughter. And, I really think I would like to inspire young people to say out there and who come from similar background that it is possible to get out of there if you put in the work, if you stay on the right track and just continue watering the grass until it gets greener and the flowers bloom. And I think that's in a way is the story, you can see how it starts out, but through perseverance, through hard work, maybe a little talent and passion. If you can find your passion in life, they say you never work a day in your life, and it's really true. Where a lot of people tell me, Wolfgang, when you're gonna retire, when you're gonna stop doing that? I said, why? I love what I do. This is what I wanna do until the end of my life.
Right. Do you feel that the industry has a sort of ageism compared to, say, other industries? Because they keep coming, when are you going to retire? Retire. And you're like, I love what I do. Why should this even be in my vocabulary?
Well, if you work for the government, if you work for a big company, they have a retirement age on it. I mean, I remember when they talked about Bob Iger, when he was 65 years old, they were talking about retirement. I said, here they have a genius as a CEO, running a company, making the company bigger and doing all this work. Why do you want him to retire? Why
Right.
cannot say, okay, why are you better or worse when you're 70 than when you're 65? So I really think we put too much age on it now. There is another point too, where you say, when are the young kids gonna take over? When are the young ones gonna do? Like I have my son Byron, who is in the business with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure sometimes he thinks, I hope my father doesn't live until 120, because if not, I'm gonna be 75 before I can take over the business. I think there is both, but if you love what you do, you just have to find out a new place, maybe. Maybe let's say 10 years from now, I won't go to work the way I do now, but I can be an advisor to my son or to some other people who work there, be more like a consultant and spend more time maybe traveling as long as I can, enjoy life or whatever, how many summers I have left.
Right. Now, for you, David, working alongside Wolfgang for so many months, I would assume, what greatest lessons have you learned through putting this entire project together?
Well, I think that one of the big lessons I learned is how important teamwork is, mm-hmm. and putting together a team and giving them opportunities. And you know, something that Wolfgang has done is he's given young chefs big opportunities in his restaurants. When he sees talent, when he sees passion, he moves them up and gives them a chance to really spread their wings. And that's one of the reasons that he's able to have all of these different restaurants operating at such a high level, is because he's really like a teacher. And,
right.
You know, I have a few shows going, and we have a number of different people in different positions and things across these shows, all who are ambitious and have their talents. And we try to do that same kind of nurturing and give them opportunities in the same way. So I think this kind of feeling of teamwork is so important, and Wolfgang sets a great example.
Right. Now, for both, the way how you filmed the food itself was just purely cinematic. I was just sitting there hungry every second. Is there a certain process that you went through to make the sequences of the food look so beautiful?
Well, you know, I'm very hungry filmmaker. And so if I can make the audience look at the food the same way that I do, then, you know, I will have succeeded. And that's one of the things that got me into this kind of food filmmaking business, is when I made Jiro Dreams of Sushi and later Chef's Table, you know, there was already food television. There was a lot of TV with cooks and stuff and a lot of instructional mm-hmm. things, but I never felt that the artistry of the cooking was really shown in the way that the pictures were being taken. And right. So, you know, I love documentary, but I also love, you know, beautiful scripted films, you know, and I always thought that I would go into making, you know, kind of big narrative movies. And so I apply all the cinematic technique that someone like Martin Scorsese would use, or, you know, kind of Steven Spielberg style lensing and shooting, and try to apply that to the documentary to make the audience really get absorbed by the story. I don't want them to even think that they're watching a doc. So when they right. see food, I just want them to see a beautiful image that evokes it inspires their imagination and their appetite.
Right. Now, for both, the film kind of questions the cost of fame and what you're willing to sacrifice for that. Looking back at it now, and that is completed, do you feel that there was anything that was left out that you want to say?
Well, for me, no, it was important to really show people the beginning of it. Mm-hmm. Yes, the film basically stopped around, what, 95 or 2000 at the most. So we expanded a lot since then.
Right.
But a lot of people know that already. People know we have a restaurant in London or in New York City or in Washington and so forth. So these are new projects. But I think you cannot put everything in there. I don't want people to fall asleep when they watch the movie and say, oh, not another restaurant. No. So I think that was really an important part for me, really where I came from. I think obviously now I have a new family, really. Even my older boys are with me too. Byron is working with me. Cameron just got his PhD. He lives in Boston. And then I have my two young boys who hopefully maybe one gonna be cooking too. One is into music, and my wife is working with me in the business and, you know, taking also care of the kids, because it's always the mother who does more for the kids than the father generally. So I think there's still a lot to talk about too, and maybe we figure out some interesting angle of how life continues, because I'm not finished yet.
So unconfirmed sequel. And very lastly, for you, David, if you could describe this documentary in just 3 words, what would you say?
Never give up.
Ah, perfect.
Yep.
That works very well. Thank you so much, both of you, for speaking with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.